Many thanks for joining us. You're watching QTV and we're broadcasting live from our studios along Kairaba Avenue. And this is the news coming to you from our studios along Kairaba Avenue, and I am Ansmane Sonyase. Coming up this evening, we have an announcement from the Gambia's Supreme Islamic Council about this year's Eid al-Fitr. And in commemoration of Eid al-Fitr, President Barrow has announced the pardoning of 57 prisoners. The police are investigating what appears to be the gruesome murder of a 36-year-old woman in Lamin Kerewan in the West Coast region. The Senegambia Democracy and Governance Organization, in partnership with the Emirates Red Crescent, have presented bags of rice, clothing and cash to over 75 families and victims of human rights violations. In international news, clashes continue in Gaza following the storming of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Islam's third holiest site, by Israeli forces, leading to dozens of deaths and hundreds of injuries. And in sports news, Gambia's Paralympians are taking part in a competition in Switzerland in the hope of securing qualification for this year's Tokyo Paralympics. Well, stay tuned as we bring you more on these and other stories. And now we take a look at the news in detail. We start with an announcement from Sheikh Hama Jaite of the Gambia's Supreme Islamic Council about this year's Eid al-Fitr.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wassalatu wassalam ala Muhammad Rasulullah alladhi ba'athahu Allah rahmatan lil alameen, bashiran wa nadhiran wa muwahhadan lil ummah. On behalf of the Supreme Islamic Council, in the person of its elected president, Sheikh Essa Dabo, the Supreme Islamic Council is highly elated, glad to announce to the Gambian Muslim community and to the Muslim Ummah at large, the end of Ramadan and tomorrow to be considered as the first day of Eid al-Fitr. On this occasion, we extend our greetings, our prayers to the government of the people in the person of the President of the Republic of the Gambia, his government, and to the entire Gambian population without exception, and to reiterate the stance of the Supreme Islamic Council, its presidents and its executive members, that they are out to foment and to foster and to enhance and that sense of togetherness and unity among the Gambian Muslims, and to try to insulate the nation from any divisive elements that might penetrate, and to try to protect any vulnerable segment of the population, and to confirm to the Gambian Muslims and to the Gambian people that the Supreme Islamic Council is a council of difference, and by the will and the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in fact, its presence will be felt not in words, but in actions and in the movement towards positive progression in unifying the ranks of the Gambian Muslims and in trying to bring Islam to that level and standard that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be very pleased, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had actually relayed to mankind. And on that occasion again, on behalf of the President of the Council, Sir Issa Dabo, we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa kullu amin wa antum bikhair.
Well, happy Eid to all Muslims out there. And talking about Eid, in what is becoming an Eid tradition, the President has announced the pardoning of prisoners. The 57 prisoners pardoned in commemoration of the Muslim feast of Eid al-Fitr 2021, locally known as Korite, are 41 Gambians, 10 Senegalese, 3 Conakry Guineans, 2 Nigerians, and 1 Indian. All the non-Gambians shall be deported immediately upon release. And now on to some tragic news. Tragedy struck the community of Lamin Kerewan in the West Coast region after Maram Jau, a 36-year-old lady, was allegedly murdered in her sitting room and her body apparently moved and left in a pool of blood in the bedroom. Our reporter Amar Pijalo visited the scene and he filed this report.
A glance at our newspapers seems to indicate that suspected murder cases under unknown circumstances are becoming a daily occurrence in the Gambia. The latest leading to the death of Maram Jow, a 36-year businesswoman, occurred on Tuesday 11th May 2021 at about 2 p.m. in her home in Lamen Kerewan at the Central Bank Estate. The tragedy death of Maram was first noticed and the alarm raised by two little girls. The deceased was due to plait their hair in preparation for Korite. On arriving, they were greeted by a gruesome blood-spattered scene. Soon after alerting adults, neighbors and family members ran to the Jaukunda compound. QTV visited the family compound in Lamen Kerewan, where the incident happened, to get first-hand information. Despite the shock and devastation of Maram's brutal death, we managed to speak to her mother, Nyere Jase, and some other neighbors who all explained their shock and devastation at the turn of events.
I
don't know why they did this to my daughter, who has no problem with anyone. I left her sleeping and went to work in the morning. She was a businesswoman. People would take loans from her and she had not taken any loan from anyone. She was a very disciplined, respectful and supportive lady.
Seni Sane, a neighbor, said Maram was someone anyone would wish to have as a neighbor, as she was sharing and caring to her neighbors. I have never seen this lady having a problem with anyone. If she comes back from Abuko where she goes to sell, she will come to my wife, who is one of her closest friends. She is very kind and caring to my family. She has already bought Korite clothes for all my children and just brought them to us yesterday. I am devastated. Sohna Diouf, an other neighbor and friend of the deceased, also spoke to us.
ñun ñu ngi woon si kër bi am na xale bu ñu ñëw oo like ne dafa gis stains blood in the house, so we ran and came, but we called, there was no response, and we entered inside the house. We shared search, but we didn't see anyone. So later on we called, there's this boy we called for him to help to search. He entered and he was like, there's no one here. But we tried again and checked. Then the boy later find out that the body was there. And we met her, she was dead and she was covered with a wrapper. Then I took this bed sheet and covered her head, like her face. And there was stains of blood under like the bed, all over. Like she have...
We contacted Superintendent Lamin Jai, spokesperson of the Gambia Police Force, in a telephone conversation, and he confirmed the incident, saying, I can confirm the suspected murder of Maram Jow. The deceased lived with her mother and sister in Lamen Kerewan. She was found dead in her bedroom on Tuesday afternoon. The body has been evacuated to the hospital for further examination. The police have opened an investigation into the matter. The police have since put out a statement that Mario Mendy, a 41-year-old Senegalese national, is currently the lone suspect and is helping police investigators. The police have said the deceased lady's family revealed that she had been following up on Mendy to settle money he was supposed to return for a job he had not completed. On the 11th of May 2021, the suspect allegedly called the deceased's mother and sister and told them that he had gone to the house and paid the money allegedly to the deceased and was on his way home. Moments after that phone call, Maram Jow was found dead in the family house with injuries over her body, and a pestle believed to be the murder weapon was also found. Crimes including killings, rapes, pickpocketing, purse-snatching, theft of valuables from vehicles, assaults and housebreaking are becoming reported daily in the Gambian media. We hope there will be justice in this case, and after all the testimonies to her loving and caring nature, may the soul of Maram Jow rest in heaven. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
Indeed, a tragic incident. Our prayers and thoughts are with her family and friends. Meanwhile, the Senegambia Democracy and Governance Organization, in partnership with the Emirates Red Crescent, on Monday presented bags of rice, clothing and cash to over 75 families and victims of human rights violations during ex-President Jammeh's rule. More in this report. Registered in 2015, the organization has since embarked on numerous humanitarian activities, among them the construction of mosques, hospitals and boreholes for women gardeners in rural Gambia. At the handing over ceremony, Madam Tuku Jallow, Gambia's former representative to the United Arab Emirates and founder of the Senegambia Democracy and Governance Organization, expressed her delight at being able to extend support to victims of the Jammeh administration. And while giving an assurance of her commitment to continue supporting vulnerable families, especially women and orphans, she highlighted some of the projects her organization is currently embarking on.
And I will make sure that I will give my support again, more than whatever we could, to get our situations, resettled down, get our things together, get the kids in school, get the orphans supported so that they can have a better living conditions, that they can survive with their parents.
Sirif Kijera and Adama Jallow, the chairman and national coordinator of the Gambia Center for Victims of Human Rights Violations, respectively commended Madam Tuku Jallow for extending such support to the victims and called on other organizations to emulate such gesture by providing support to victims and their families.
We just want to extend our gratitude and our appreciation on behalf of every victims across the country. I just want to note that we have registered more than 1,000 victims with the Victim Center. Not everybody that will benefit, obviously, but if one benefits, it means everyone benefits.
I think the gesture is wonderful and it's laudable, and we really welcome it as a victim center, because most of the victims, as we speak, most of them are unemployed, and some of them, they've lost their breadwinners, which is difficult for them to get this kind of thing. And I think these things that are here, the rice, the clothes, money for the younger ones, and also dates that have been given to us, is very timely. We are in Ramadan, and also the prayers is just next door.
Receiving the donation, Falang Sonko and Juguna Suso, both victims, expressed gratitude to the former diplomat for reaching out to them. Other speakers at Monday's presentation included Bine Marong, KMC nominated councillor, and other officials of the Victim Center, who all welcomed the donation. Clothing and various cash amounts were presented to 44 children as support for the upcoming feast of alFitr, while 75 victims received bags of rice and cartons of dates. Answane Sonyasi for QTV News. And from that report, we will take our first commercial break. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Q City presents Koite Day Special. It's gonna be a family fun day. Hussein Dada will be having fun with the kids from 12 noon to 11 p.m. Joined by guest artists Chanta, Attack, Jaffa, T, Macabars, Big Banga, YD, and Our Gambia. Tickets $200 flat. Food and drinks will be on sale. Q City Koite Day Special with Hussein Dada. Q City, the #1 hangout spot for all kids.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just joining us, this is QTV News coming to you live from our studios along Kairaba Avenue with me and Smani Sonyasi. Now, residents of the coastal fishing village of Kartong are bemoaning the impact of COVID-19 on their community. As we hear in this report, they explain how it has affected their lives and are calling on government to support them by creating more job opportunities. COVID-19 has so far claimed many lives globally, and the Gambia, like other countries, continues to battle a pandemic that has ravaged health sectors in even the strongest nations in the world. Unlike in other countries, the pandemic has greatly impacted almost all sectors of the economy. But one community that is really reeling from the impact of this global epidemic is the coastal village of Kartong, a major fishing settlement that is also home to a prominent historical site, Kartong Folonko, and several tourist attractions. If not for the fishing activities, which are a constant sight here, there is not much activity, especially at the seaside. Deserted local restaurants like this one and a major crossing point at the border with Senegal, which has seen a decrease in the number of commuters, clearly shows how COVID-19 has disrupted economic activities in this community. Suleiman Bojang, a tour guide and native of Kartong, says COVID-19 has greatly impacted their lives as the closure of restaurants, the inactivity at tourist attraction sites, and the decline in the number of commuters at the border has left many unemployed. There are many boys here who are also tour guides. This place used to be a very busy site. Unfortunately, we haven't seen much activity since the start of the pandemic. Many of us here are finding it difficult to fend for our families now. If not for some fishing activities, there is not much happening here. I wish the government would extend support to the youths by creating more job opportunities, especially for the youths of Katong. Like Suleiman, Mohamed Lamin Sise is also a native of Katong. He is one of the drivers at the seaside who transport women oyster farmers to Brikama market and sometimes tourists to attraction sites in the community. He echoes similar remarks, bemoaning problems presented by the pandemic. So many people visit here daily and tourists from all over the world come here too. However, since the start of COVID-19, not much has been happening here. Tourists don't come anymore and most businesses here have stopped operations. How I wish this would end soon. The youths here are very hardworking, so government should consider extending support to us. Abubakar Koli and Jenaba Baji are engaged in fish smoking. They too bemoan the impact of the pandemic, which they say have disrupted economic activities in the village. The impact of the pandemic can be felt throughout this community, and residents here can't wait for life to return to normal. Katong is often reminisced about for its rich history, ecotourism sites, and the infamous assault on the army barracks by remnants of the November 11, 1994 abortive coup. Located in Kombo South, the coastal village of Katong is a multi-ethnicity settlement and is also near the international border with Senegal, which is demarcated by the Alahin River, also known as the San Pedro River. And given its proximity to Senegal, hundreds of Senegalese and Gambian nationals use small canoes such as this one to cross to either side of the riverbank. And currencies of both countries, the CFA and the Dalasi, are used in business transactions. If not for COVID-19, men and women from different backgrounds and neighboring villages would usually throng the riverside daily, engage in various activities to earn a living, and fishing is the main source of income for many of these people here. However, the pandemic has rendered many here unemployed. Answane Sonyasi for KTV News. And now on to some international news. Now, weeks of unrest in occupied East Jerusalem, which Palestinians claim as the capital of a future Palestinian state, has intensified after Israeli forces stormed Islam's third holiest site on Monday, killing dozens of people and injuring hundreds. More in this report by Ayajao.
The recent violence stems from a long-running effort by Jewish settler groups to expel several Palestinians from their homes in Sheikh Jarrah. Earlier on Monday, hundreds of Jewish settlers who approached the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood in East Jerusalem withdrew from the area after encountering a large group of Palestinian youths, according to reports. This came after the loudspeakers of a mosque in nearby neighborhood called on Palestinians to march to Sheikh Jarrah, where tensions have been rising due to conflicts between Israeli police and Palestinian residents, who for decades have been forcibly evicted from their homes to make way for Jewish settlers. Following the call from the mosque, Palestinians from several areas of occupied Jerusalem flooded the neighborhood on foot and by car, prompting the settlers to retreat. According to Gaza officials, over 30 people, including 9 children, have been killed in Israeli airstrikes, as days of Israeli aggression also leaves more than 300 Palestinians wounded in occupied East Jerusalem. Al-Aqsa Mosque is the world's third holiest site for Muslims. Jews call the area the Temple Mount, claiming it was the site of 2 Jewish temples in ancient times. Israel occupied East Jerusalem, where Al-Aqsa is located, during the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. It later annexed the entire city in 1980 in a move never recognized by the international community. However, the international community has never made any moves to force Israel back to its pre-1967 borders, mainly due to the support and veto of sanctions by successive U.S. governments. Earlier this month, a lower court made a ruling backing the settlers' decades-old claim to the plot, thus angrying Palestinians. A Supreme Court hearing on a Palestinian appeal had been set for Monday, but the Justice Ministry said on Sunday that in light of all the circumstances, it would delay the hearing. The evening airstrikes by Israel on Monday drastically escalated what already are heightened tensions throughout the region, following weeks of aggression and onslaught by Israeli police and illegal settlers on Palestinians in occupied East Jerusalem that have threatened to become a wider conflict. At the time of this report, on what is still a developing story, 2 Israelis had been killed. The death toll made it one of the bloodiest days of Israeli-Palestinian conflict in several years. Reactions have poured in from around the world after days of unrest in Jerusalem. World leaders in countries such as Turkey, Germany, United Kingdom, Indonesia, Iran, Egypt, United States, France and European Union and the United Nations have all condemned the attacks and called for calm regarding the situation. However, if history is anything to go by, nothing much else is likely to be done. Reporting for QTV News, I am Yahya Jao.
And now on to sports news. 3 Gambian Paralympic athletes will be competing in a wheelchair track competition in Switzerland to book qualification spot for the Tokyo Paralympic Games in the 200 meters and 800 meters categories. QTV's Mourning Gajaga spoke to one of the athletes and an official, and he now reports.
Paralympic athletes Malan Tamba and Demba Jaju will be competing for qualification spots in the 200 and the 800 meters in the Northwell 2021 World Para-Athletics Grand Prix in Switzerland. Female athlete Fatou Sane would have been assessed for classification before taking part in the 3-day competition. All 3 athletes, their coach, and an official of the Gambian National Paralympic Committee arrived in Switzerland a few days ago and are ready for the competition due to begin between Friday 14th May to Sunday the 15th. Malan Tamba says he is in an upbeat mood ahead of the competition.
Well, from the competition,
we are ready for the competition because it has been our target to get the qualification time. Our previous competition in Tunisia 2 months ago, where we won medals, could help us compete better. Despite their hard work in training and efforts to compete, they will face an uphill task due to their substandard competition wheelchairs. Malan Tamba complains about this setback.
You know, old chair lañ use ak ay beginner chair, so lolu bokk na li nga xamne suñu ñu gëna nekk di sonal.
We have old wheelchairs, which is going to affect the way we compete. If we had the international standard wheelchair, there is no doubt that we will get automatic qualification. However, we will do our best. Administrative Secretary of the Gambia National Paralympic Committee, Mama Fall, who is with the team, says government through the Ministry of Youth and Sports are working on getting the athletes good quality wheelchairs for track racing.
The ones we have definitely are not up to standard, but we have talks with Ministry of Youth and Sports, and inshallah very soon, before the games, we will get the latest new ones that everybody is using for competition.
Gambia participates in at least 3 previous Paralympic Games on wild cards. Securing a first qualification spot would be a huge boost for these athletes and the country. Modu Gajaga, QTV News.
Well, we wish them all the best of luck. I'm afraid that's all about it, but before we take a leave of you, here's a recap for main headlines. We have an announcement from the Gambia's Supreme Islamic Council about this year's Eid al-Fitr. In commemoration of Eid al-Fitr, President Barrow has announced the pardoning of 57 prisoners. The police are investigating what appears to be the gruesome murder of a 36-year-old woman in Lamin Kerawan in the West Coast region. The Senegambia Democracy and Governance Organization, in partnership with the Emirates Red Crescent, have presented bags of rice, clothing and cash to over 75 families and the victims of human rights violations. And in international news, classes continue in Gaza following the storming of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Islam's third holiest site, by Israeli forces, leading to dozens of deaths and hundreds of injuries. Well, that is all we have for you in tonight's edition. Do join us tomorrow for more news. Until then, on behalf of the entire production team, thanks for watching. Well, do stay tuned. The President's Eid message follows shortly.